Are you trying to demystify why your dog might not be listening? That's exactly what we're talking about today on the podcast. Welcome back to the McCann Dogs podcast.
We all want a dog that listens.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes that gets convoluted because we also want a dog that enjoys their life, and we want to watch our dogs run and play, and we want to experience all these things. Right? And part of the dog ownership experience is all of those other things, right? Getting to walk your dog, getting to enjoy your dog in terms of freedom, off leash, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of the times I think that people misjudge the amount of effort that they need to put in to make sure that they're creating reliable listening skills.
Right. Yes.
So today I want to talk about some of the reasons that dogs aren't necessarily listening, and maybe that's a situation that you can fix.
Right.
So let's dive into this a little bit, and let's talk about some of the common reasons that dogs might not be listening.
Well, I think one of the most common reasons they don't listen is because we haven't trained them to listen. So we haven't put any effort into it, but we expect the dog to naturally listen to us.
So I'm going to ask you a question that we get asked all of the time. At what age is my dog going to be well trained?
There is no magic age.
At what age is my dog going to magically listen?
Right. No, there's no age where dogs magically listen.
That's the thing. You know, the more dogs you have and the more experience you have, the more you recognize that this training thing has so much merit in our lives, because we don't live with dogs that don't listen, right? We have these young puppies that come into our lives, and at that point, of course, they don't listen, but we don't expect them to listen at that point. It's not related to age. There's not some magical age that's going to kick in where your dog is suddenly going to say, okay, I'm going to be a good dog now. You know, I mean,
that would be good, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah. And you just have to keep them like under lock and key for that first 6 months.
And
then all of a sudden
we leave them with the breeder until they've reached that magic age of whatever it is, 6 months and 17 days and 3 hours. Yeah. And then that's when you adopt them.
Yeah. Perfect. And now I bring home this well-trained dog.
Yes.
Honestly,
that doesn't happen.
Maybe if the breeder's spending that whole time training your dog, you're going to bring home a well-trained dog. But guess what happens at that point?
Well, the dog listens to the breeder, but it doesn't listen to you because he has no history with you.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Like, dogs are going to do what dogs do. And that is scavenge. That is sniff. That is play. That is tear up things. You know, a dog comes into our lives, and we need to give them the benefit of good training and good information to expect them to behave in our lives.
Right.
Because their idea of behaving and our idea of behaving, like, we're both governed by different sets of laws. Right.
Well, back in the fall, I was getting out of my car, and I live in downtown Hamilton. There's a lot of garbage on the street. And somebody had thrown a pizza box at the side of the curb. And a lady was walking down the street, and she wasn't paying any attention to her dog. I can't remember if she was on her phone or listening to earbuds. And her dog's just wandering, and it was a beagle.
Okay.
And suddenly the beagle I guess there was pizza in this pizza box. I soon found out, because all of a sudden I heard the lady yelling at the dog, and she's yelling at the top of her voice. Everyone in the neighborhood must have heard, "What's wrong with you?" Oh. And the dog's snarfling a piece of pizza out of the pizza box. And she's not even trying to get this full-size piece of pizza out of the dog's mouth, but instead she's yelling at the dog, "What's wrong with you?" And my heart broke for the dog. Yeah, I just broke for the dog. And I thought, that dog has no idea. You weren't giving him any guidance. You weren't helping him. He found a piece of pizza. He's a dog. Yeah. He's going to eat it.
Yeah. Here's the thing with dogs. They're scavengers by nature. You know, like, yes, they'll hunt. They'll chase down a critter, kill it, eat it. But they'll also get into the garbage. They'll get into the bush. They'll find, the discarded remnants of other hunting dogs.
Right, yeah.
Who have left behind carcasses, and they'll eat that.
Or pizza carcasses.
They'll get into the pizza box if it's available. Like, all of these things are dog behaviors. There's nothing wrong with that dog. That's a dog taking good care of his needs.
Right, yeah.
Ooh, I smell food. There's free food. I'm a scavenger. I'm going to take it.
Exactly, yes.
That reminds me of a story where I was walking Quincy on the Bruce Trail, and we had just arrived, parked, and I got out of the vehicle and I put her on leash, and there was another woman with I think it was a little boo hunt, a little white boo hunt, and she was getting out of her vehicle and putting her dog, or not putting her dog on leash, rather. And she basically just started walking onto the trail, and she was going one direction, and the dog started running the other direction. So the dog's running down the escarpment on the Bruce Trail, and she's going the other way. And I just happened to still be within earshot with Quincy as I'm like going, what is this woman doing? Like, her dog's running away from her. What's going on? And Quincy was young at the time. And the woman's muttering to herself as I can hear her. She's going, dumb dog. And I thought, like, what did you expect the dog to do? And clearly, since you're calling the dog and the dog's not responding, you don't have a good training relationship with this dog. You haven't trained the dog. Like, what did you think the dog was going to do when you just took the leash off and said, okay, let's go for a walk? Like, were you crossing your fingers and hoping the dog would follow you? Like, are you just going to let the dog run off now?
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand what's going to happen here.
Yes.
Anyways, expectations are very important to have, but if they're not based on reality, you're probably going to end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Right. Yes.
So there's not a specific age. People ask us that question all the time. Oh, how when should I expect that from my dog? Once you've trained it.
Right.
And then even within that answer, there's so many variables, right? Like, this dog, how cooperative is this dog? How eager to work with you is this dog? How much foundation and training does this dog have that you're going to build on now? How much time do you have that you want to offer the dog? What is your skill level? You know, if you do 10 reps of a training skill and 8 of them are not very good and only 2 of them are reasonable, then you've really only done 2 reps.
Right.
And the dog needs a lot of repetition. So, like, how capable are you as a handler at that point and juncture? Like, how much information is the dog actually getting out of these training scenarios you're setting up for them? There's so many variables to it.
Even within, for dog trainers, there's many variables.
Yeah, 1000%.
There's no way, say, at 1 year of age, my Saluki was anywhere near the point my Corgi was at 1 year of age. I had to put a lot more work and effort into her to get to the point where my Corgi had been trained at a year.
Yeah.
So within breeds, within temperaments, there's lots of variables as well.
Absolutely. And we talk so much about getting the right breed to suit your lifestyle. So one of those things needs to be trainability and your ability to look at the dog and say, okay, you know, I mean, we jumped in head first with our first dog, a Rottweiler, because there was a bunch of reasons. It was family dog. And in hindsight, a Rottweiler was a really bad entry-level dog.
It's a tough entry-level dog, yes.
However, luckily, education was important in my family, and we started at 10 weeks in Puppy Essentials. We struggled. We struggled a lot with that dog. My mom... Still, when she passed away, we could still see visible scars on her arms from the nipping from Quincy as a puppy. Like, she was a formidable first dog to have. And in hindsight, she wasn't an entry-level dog at all. And luckily, we struggled and we got on top of it. We had great coaching from McCann's, and we kept training until we got to the point where we were like, okay, we're good now. Like, as grade 3 or life skills 3 continued to progress, it was like, okay, I'm getting a handle on this. This feels good. I had good support behind me and good people telling me what I needed to do by being in class. So be conscious of the type of dog that you're getting. You know, be honest with yourself. Talk to breeders and say, like, okay, I really love the German Shepherd dog, for example, but this is my first dog. Do you think that, first off, do you think the German Shepherd's going to suit my lifestyle? Here's my this, that, and the other. Second off, do you think your lines of German Shepherd are going to suit my lifestyle?
Right, yeah.
Because there's a lot of variety in breeds even.
Yes.
And you can go to a Golden Retriever and get a cream-colored, softer, you know, more laid-back Golden Retriever. Or you can go and get a field-bred Golden Retriever who is wiry and has less substance and looks fairly different and is completely different in terms of temperament. The drive and the workability and the desire and all of the things are so different. You can do the same thing in shepherds. You know, you can do the same thing in a lot of different breeds.
And most breeds, there's going to be variances in temperament.
Yeah.
And even variances in the litter as well.
Yes. Absolutely. So get into it knowing what you're capable of. And if you know that you're not capable, then you need to be in a position like we were, where we had capable people behind us to support us and make this work. Because when you have a really powerful dog, you need to take responsibility and you need to be in control of that dog.
Yes. So basically you need to make sure you have a good breeder.
Yes.
Make sure you have a breeder who's going to give you continuing support, not one that you're going to sign a check to and then they wash their hands of you. So a good breeder followed up by good training classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can make any situation work if you're determined enough and
exactly,
you have the right advice behind you. So, but ask yourself that honestly, you know, am I the type of person who's going to reach out for help, or am I going to be sitting on my computer behind the Facebook warriors and asking them for advice instead of going to professionals sort of thing. So yeah, definitely there's no one age where any of these things are going to come together. And I would say the earlier you train, the better chance you have of getting to a reasonable age with a well-trained dog, because the longer you wait.
And even a 15-year-old dog can be naughty.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Definitely. I've seen some naughty elderly dogs.
You know what happens when they're 15 and naughty though? We smile and we go, oh my gosh, any day is going to be special with you because you're 15. So you can do whatever you want. There's this like cutoff point where you no longer have to have manners. You can do whatever you want.
Yes.
Do whatever you want.
As long as you're safe, it's fine.
Yeah. Before I said goodbye to Reggie, before that he was 15 and a half. So he was at that age and he could do nothing wrong. There was nothing that dog, like nothing. You can do whatever you want, Reg.
Right, yep.
Anything you do is going to be endearing at this point.
Honda at 14 and a half too. There's a lot of times he'll do something and I'll think, I'm going to give him a cookie for that. And I think, I should not. As a dog trainer, I know I should not give him a cookie for that. But, you're 14 and a half. Yeah.
It's when you get to that point where you're no longer thinking about the future because you might only have today.
Right,
so I need to make this really count. Right. And tomorrow doesn't matter because there might not be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
there's
you know
more.
what?
There's always cookies. There's more cookies. Yeah.
Eat it. Yeah. Eat it. Enjoy the cookies. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Our old dogs are so special. Yes. And I think that's part of the reason.
They do have a different set of rules.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason. So totally okay if your dog is 15 to let the rules lapse. But before that, you should probably make them listen.
Right. Yes.
All right. You heard it here on the McCann Dogs podcast. All right. Another reason that I think is fairly typical that dogs might not listen or don't listen is that as trainers, one of our jobs is to motivate our dogs to want to listen.
Right.
So I think most training programs these days include great motivation. But if you find yourself in an obedience class where it is nothing but staunch drills and there's no fun and there's no food and there's no engagement with the dog, it's just do what I say because I said it.
Right.
It's not overly motivating for the dog. And you might create a dog that does listen, but it's probably not going to be joyful for you. It's probably not going to be joyful for the dog.
It's like we all have that one family member or that one acquaintance at work that once they start talking, we just sort of glaze over and it's like, oh no. And we
it's me, isn't it?
Right. No. And if you don't know who it is at work, it's probably you.
I was just running through my head. I was like, I can't really think of anybody that must be me.
No. That's what they say. Do you have that one weird person in your family? Yeah. And if you can't think of who it is, it's probably you. But no, we all have that one person that starts talking and we're like, oh, I'd rather be anywhere else. Yeah. And we don't want to be that person for our dog.
Yeah.
We don't want to start talking and our dog go, oh, not again.
I'm thinking of the teacher in Ferris Bueller. Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody? And everybody was like
right.
falling asleep and nodding their heads. Yeah. Like that's really it's not engaging.
Right.
And you don't have to be like the most enthusiastic person in the world, but you do have to do things that your dog goes, oh, I enjoyed that.
Right. So, that's interesting. Yeah.
Something your dog likes. It doesn't have to be food. It doesn't have to be toys. It can be anything your dog likes,
Right.
but you do need to find something to motivate your dog to want to do the things that we're doing.
Right.
And what we do with training is we first show our dogs what we want. So we might lure, for example, to get them to sit when we're first teaching them to sit. But then once they understand the concept of what sit means, now we're going to make sure that the food or toy or whatever the thing is comes after the behavior has been successfully performed. So after, the first introductory period with sit, I'm not luring my dog into a sit anymore, but I might still reward him for sitting. So that would be sit, and he does. Then I say yes. Then I reach for a piece of food and reward him. Or then I say yes and get it, pull out my toy.
Right.
Something along those lines that basically says you did what I asked you to do. So now you're going to get great things in response to that. And once we're at that point, we can wean away from that constant reward schedule. We don't want to maintain a constant reward schedule forever because it's not very powerful.
Right.
Surprisingly, it's not very powerful. Surprisingly, the random reinforcement schedule is much more
Right.
powerful.
That's why if we won every time we pulled the slot machine,
Yeah.
we'd be like, boring.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's the bank
Right.
machine, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, hopefully the bank machine.
Right, yes.
Hopefully you press a button and money comes
Right,
out.
yeah.
But it's not exciting.
No.
It doesn't have you thinking, oh, I really want to go to the bank machine on Friday night.
Right, I
It'd be
hope somebody
fun to
comes
go,
out.
yeah, I have to make sure I only have $20 because otherwise I'm going to overspend. And
Right,
I'm gonna,
yep.
No, you don't get excited about the bank machine, but you do get excited about going to the casino, probably. Most people get excited by that random reinforcement. It's the same for our dogs.
Right,
Our dogs
yep.
love to gamble. So, find a way to motivate your dog and use that motivation to teach them good skills and to teach them to enjoy those skills. When I call my dog, when I call Ned, for example, he might be out wandering by the pond and I'm walking in a different section of the property and he's gotten a little far from me. So I say, Ned, and he doesn't go, oh, all right, here I
Boo,
come.
my owner called me.
He goes, ooh, I'm coming. What do you got for me? And sometimes it's nothing but a butt scratch. Sometimes it's nothing but, oh, you're such a good dog. What a smarty pants.
Right. But those are fun for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he likes
you know what
that.
I do a lot?
What?
He loves this. He loves it. So leaves, pine cones, little twigs, whatever.
Yeah.
I pick one of those up and I give it to him. He comes running in and I look around to see what's on the ground and I grab a little twig and he goes, oh, that's for me. And he comes flying in and I hold it out for him to grab and he grabs it and then he turns back around to me and he's like, look, I got my twig. It's just, not every dog is going to love that.
No, it's like giving them an air cookie. where
Yeah.
you pretend to get a cookie out and hand it to them, and dogs will come up and they'll put their mouth and go, hey, there's nothing there.
Except for a lab.
Right,
A lab's just going to assume that they ate it already.
An air cookie, delicious.
Look at air cookie. Yeah. So those things might not be appealing to every dog. Ned is a retriever.
Right.
He finds it innately rewarding to have something in his mouth.
Right. Yep.
So if I give him something for his mouth, I call it his moot all the time when I'm there. Here's something for your moot. I don't know why I say that, but I feel like I just needed to share that with everyone. Here's a twig for your moot.
Right.
I don't know. Anyways,
And Count, my Saluki, she would have been offended if you handed her a twig. She would have been so offended, Shannon. So offended. How could you give her princess royalty a twig?
Oh my gosh. So part of this motivation thing is knowing your dog.
Right.
Right? Knowing what makes your dog trip their trigger.
Right, yeah.
That gets them excited, right? A terrier is going to love that tug game. So if you have a terrier and you call them and they come running towards you, teaching that dog how to appropriately tug on a leash, for example, that would be a great motivator out and about. Right? So now I call my terrier. He's expecting this great game. We have a quick little tug session. I say out. He follows the rules of that because I've taught him to. And he goes, oh, next time you call me, I'm going to come back even harder because that was fun.
Yes.
It creates a dog who wants to do the thing. And a lot of the times we create dogs that want to do the thing, but the thing is external to us, right? The thing is playing with the other dogs. The thing is running up to the other people on the street.
Right.
The thing is spending all of their time on walks sniffing instead of having some structure to it, etc. So, when you're thinking about motivators, think about, in addition, what your dog is being motivated by in the environment that may be working against you, And it's not that you can't have the best of both worlds, but you need to have a good balance of it. And I think that's what's lacking. A lot of the times people are like, oh, I can't be bothered right now. And I'm going to walk my dog on a leash with my earbuds in or with my phone in my hand. And I'm not paying attention because literally all I'm doing right now is trying to exercise my dog. There's no engagement there. There's no anything like that there. And I think that the overwhelming majority of people who do that do it far too much, right? It's not that it's the balance piece. And then the other times they go for a walk, there's engagement. This is the habit that they've gotten into. And the dog is in the habit of self-serving. Right. So, of course, when it comes to a choice, the dog is going to choose the self-serving choice because that's what they practice every day. So have that good balance of somewhere in between.
Yes.
And it's just so much nicer, you know, having a buddy, not just a dog at the end of your leash,
right,
having somebody who I'm actually walking with. Ned, as we're walking, will often, if we get to a corner, I've got a lot of trails and turns on my property. And when we get to a corner, I pretty much expect that when I finally catch up on that corner, because of course I'm slow and he's not, he's going to be waiting for me around that corner. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, unless he's, you know, taking an offshoot into the bush and then I call him and he comes, 9 times out of 10, he's standing there waiting for me to come around the corner because I've engaged with him over that behavior, right? The odd times that he started to stop and wait for me and go, hey, what are you doing back there? I'd go, yay, you're the best dog ever. And, you know, maybe I'm grabbing my twig at that point and now he gets to play. So this reinforcing behavior that I've motivated right, is something that I find incredibly useful because those twists and turns, I don't want to lose sight of him because he's fast and there's a lot of wildlife on my property. So if I'm around the corner and not seeing him and he's off chasing a bunny into the bush, by the time I'm around the corner, if he's not thinking about me, he could be
where is
2 towns over already.
Right, yes. Or down the rabbit hole. Alice in Wonderland.
Good one. The adventures that he would get into. Oh, that'd be fun. Nettie in Wonderland. I love it.
There you go. Your next novel.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty. So definitely, we need to motivate our dogs to want to work with us.
Yes.
And whatever that means for your dog, you know, get to know your dog, know what they like, and use those rewards. Food, toys are great, but there's all sorts of motivation things that you can use to make things valuable for your dogs.
Definitely.
So, I think another reason that often sort of infiltrates our dogs who don't tend to listen is people underestimating their capabilities. And
the dogs or the humans?
The humans underestimating the dog's capability. Right. And I think that this sort of goes hand in hand with expecting them to get to a certain age and be well trained. So if you want your dog to listen, what's the number one thing you're going to do?
Train them to listen.
Exactly.
Teach them to listen.
Exactly.
Yes.
And here's the thing. They are so capable of learning. So if you take the time to teach them and you don't test before they're ready for a test, you are going to end up with great results because dogs like to learn.
They do.
You know?
They like to have purpose.
Yeah. If they're mentally stimulated and they're motivated by you and you're giving them good information, then there is going to be a good expectation there once they are ready for that expectation. Right. So don't underestimate what they're capable of doing.
And young puppies are fully capable of learning, and they're capable of learning bad and good. Yeah, so we want to get the good in.
Yeah.
I remember back in the olden days, they would say, don't start training your dog till they're 6 months.
Yeah.
At 6 months, you can put them in class. And we know now that no, that's wrong. An 8-week-old puppy can start to learn the basics.
Yes, absolutely. I start training my puppies the second that they get home. But here's the thing. Our methods of training dogs have changed so drastically. It used to be don't start training until they're 6 months because the pressure was immense.
Yes,
right?
We use much harsher methods.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we know that there's so many amazing things that we can do to build motivation, to build engagement. You know, we have really come a long way with dog training. And while there are still times where there's going to be pressure, there's going to be correction, there's going to be an element of saying, you must do this thing. I'm sorry, but you can't go and play with that dog next door right now. You need to listen to me.
Right,
there's traffic,
or
there's
no,
dangers,
you can't jump on Grandma Ida.
Yeah,
no, you
great
can.
Aunt Ida.
You
knock her right over.
Right, you cannot jump on her.
Go flying out. It's going to be a problem.
Right. So you must do things. You can't do things. Manners are manners, and we need our dog to abide by them.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking that time to show them the things that we want them to do is never wasted time.
Right.
You know, it is absolutely going to be so beneficial. So take the time, set your expectations, set your goals, get help, get realistic help so that you know what you're getting yourself into here.
Right.
You know, there's so many things that are great for DIY, but I love DIY. I really do. But usually when I'm starting a new DIY project that I feel a little bit overwhelmed by, I make sure that I'm ready to throw that thing out the window potentially. So for example, if I want to replace my cupboards, I might paint my cupboards first so that I can bridge that gap a little bit. But my expectation is that if that paint doesn't turn out well, or if I don't sand it well enough, or I sound like a that I can now throw those cupboards out because I've already resigned to the idea that I'm buying new cupboards potentially. I'm just going to see if this interim step might tide me over a little bit.
But you can't throw your puppy out.
Exactly. You know, there are some things that you don't want to DIY. You don't want to do the guesswork with.
Exactly.
Right? I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to try and hopefully I hit the right marks, because you have very specific windows of time that you need to utilize to do the right thing by your puppy. There's socialization windows, and we've done episodes on socialization. Socialization is not playing with other dogs.
Right. It's exposure.
Yeah. It's not playing with other dogs. It's not jumping all over people. Socialization is about being exposed to the world and learning to be indifferent to it.
Yes.
You know, I don't want a dog who is terrified of traffic, and I don't want a dog who is so in love with traffic that they're stimulated and want to chase it. I want a dog who's indifferent to traffic.
Right.
You know, trucks can pass us and they go, no big deal.
Right.
You know, not anything I need to worry about. I don't need to be afraid of it, and I don't need to chase it. I want a dog that does the same thing with other dogs, with other people. I want a dog that I can bring into any environment who goes, yep, no big deal.
Yep, I can handle this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whether they're interested in that environment or whether they're like, this is boring. They're not going to be over the top in any one way.
Right.
So that exposure is really, really important for our dog's general understanding. We want to make sure, though, that we are getting to those points, right? So I want my dog to be exposed. I want my dog to be comfortable in those scenarios. And then my dog can listen and can engage in those scenarios, and everything's going to be swimming at that point. So my expectations have to align with all of those pieces. Right. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Do you know the point I'm trying to make?
I got it. Yes.
Yeah. Now, this all sort of culminates into being a good leader for your dog.
Right.
Because that truly is what is going to create a dog that listens no matter what.
Right.
And what's the first word that comes to your head when I say leader?
Being consistent and fair, or consistent, being. That was my first word, was being.
Being.
I'm going to say consistency.
Consistency. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a good word there. I would say guide.
Guide.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I would say
a guide.
The leader would be the person that I want to guide me.
Right. Or someone you can rely upon.
Yeah.
Like reliable.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Predictable.
Yeah. Think
Sort of,
about
yeah.
somebody who's been in your life, who has been in a leadership role in your life, who you want to gravitate to.
Yes.
You know, that's what we want from our
Right,
puppies.
yes.
We want our puppies to think that about us.
Right.
I'm uncertain in this situation. I want to look to you, and you're going to guide me.
Right. Someone that you have complete confidence
Yes.
in, that they have your best intentions in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And leadership is often so misguided. It's so confused out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people think leader of the pack, you know, this militant behavior that we need to keep everybody under control, and everything is about dominance and blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's truths to every single thing out there
Yes.
in dog training for the most part. So I'm not going to get into a big discussion about
We should think of a new
structure and
new
hierarchy.
word for it.
Yeah.
We need to come up with a new word for leadership.
Mentor. Yeah, guide.
Yeah, guide,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. None of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, leader, your dog needs a leader.
Right.
Like, that is the way it is. And a
Right.
leader is somebody who will show the dog the way. The leader is someone who will take the dog by the hand, take the dog by the paw, and say, this is the way we live in a human world.
Right, yes.
So.
And dogs love that.
Yeah.
Dogs love that. They,
exactly.
I don't want to say bossy, but dogs love people who are bosses. Like they love, but kind, good bosses. Yes.
Exactly.
They like it's like, okay, you're going over here now. That'll, okay, now over here now. And the dog's like, okay, yeah, that's good. I'll just,
Yeah. I liken it to good child rearing as well. Like the child looks to you for guidance, but you're also their friend.
Right.
But that friendship is not the most important piece when it comes to your child understanding how to be safe in life. Sometimes there's that moment where we need to say, okay, I need to put the friendship hat aside and I need to be a leader for this child, dog, whatever the case may be. And I say it like that because a lot of the times that means us putting our emotions to the side. Because as humans with dogs, sometimes it can be hard for us to say, oh, I need to make sure that I make my point with this thing, right? Instead of, oh, he's so cute and he really wants it, so I'm just going to let him get it. So I'm going to use just a silly example. That we're walking down the sidewalk and there's a piece of pizza.
Delicious.
Here we go. We'll go back to the pizza.
Right.
So as a good leader for that dog, what would have been a better thing for that woman to do?
She should have noticed the pizza and she should have guided her dog away from the pizza, distracted him, talked to him, moved him past the pizza.
Yeah.
Or created distance between the pizza and him.
In the case of a well-trained dog who has obedience skills, I would say to Ned, if I saw something on the street as we were walking, I would just say, leave it.
I would check for extra pepperoni to make sure it's a delicious piece for him.
There you go. But this is not me being mean by saying you can't have that pizza on the ground, even though my dog probably really wants the pizza. I need to be the adult here. Like, that pizza might not be safe for my dog. It might be really old. There might be something else going on in that pizza box. Yeah. Like, who knows what's happening?
Spicy jalapenos.
Yeah. Just like I wouldn't reach down and go, oh, a piece of candy.
Free pizza.
If I was walking my child down the street, I wouldn't want them to interact with it either.
You know what happened once to me when I was little? I remember this. I was
pizza off
probably
the ground?
3 or 4, and I can remember it. We were walking. My mom was pushing my brother in his baby carriage, and we were walking down the street, and I found a piece of chewed up gum on the street, and I picked it up and started chewing it.
Ew. I remember doing that underneath the counters at some, I think it was like Woolworth back then.
Free gum. Yeah. Ew, and I remember, this was back, 50 something years ago. I remember my mom just whacking me in the back of the head, like, spit it out, like in horror. But I made a poor decision there.
Yes.
And our dogs also make poor decisions. So, ideally, I guess my mom should have seen the gum coming and saying, Christine, there's some chewed up gum, but she probably thought I was smarter than that. You really don't think you have,
Mom.
Right, yeah. You really don't think you have to warn your kids about chewed up gum, but
I think probably most kids, it's sort of like the picking your nose and eating the booger thing. Like, I think most kids at some point have done it.
Yes.
And as adults, of course, we're just grotesquely horrified by it. But as a kid, you're like, hey, I just want to try it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I remember
I got to edit that part out.
I got a smack for was at McDonald's. Somehow, I guess, all my ketchup went right onto the table. And so I just started licking it off the table. And I remember I got a whack for that. Oh, but but my parents never told me I couldn't lick the table. I guess they just assumed.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, they hadn't motivated you with the right ketchup in the right place.
Right, yet. Yes. So, I guess I should have set up my son by putting ketchup on the table, see what he would do. This might need to be edited out.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well hopefully everybody's still giggling along with us at these silly things. But being a leader does not mean being militant. And it doesn't mean smacking your dog in the back of the head for going for the pizza. It means
being proactive and helping them. Yes.
Yeah. Guiding them in that situation. So it's our job to keep them safe. And sometimes I think the original point we were trying to make, sometimes that is really hard for us on a human emotional level because we're looking at our dog, looking at that pizza with those puppy dog eyes.
Right,
I mean, we even have this expression in our society, puppy dog eyes, right?
Yes.
Because our dogs look at us, and even though, you know, it's totally anthropomorphic for us to see begging in that situation, like that's how we interpret it.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to give them everything in the world because of those puppy dog eyes. But as a good leader, it's irresponsible of me to let my dog go and eat that pizza. So I am going to take the opportunity to guide my dog, and I'm going to say, leave it, or I might take a wider berth around it, you know, anything other than just letting him do it and then going, what's wrong with you? Because I expected you to somehow see food and ignore it.
Right.
When
No,
you're
it's
a
gross.
dog.
Yeah.
And a beagle at that too. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yes. Beagles love to eat.
Incredibly food motivated dogs as a rule.
And they have such good noses to find it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. You probably smelled that from 2 towns over.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you could probably smell every ingredient on it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's mushrooms, pepperonis.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, their noses are so fascinating.
Yes.
But yeah, leading the dog means helping them navigate our world.
Right.
You know, and sometimes that means we have to put our own emotion aside and put the needs of the dog in front of our emotions, because that's a thing that a lot of people will do is they will put their own needs emotionally on the dog, and then the dog is living in this different world because it's the world the human wants them to live in.
Right.
And it's hard to look at that scenario and go, oh, this is self-serving for me.
Yes.
This is more for me doing all of this stuff that's contrary to the nature of the dog is serving me, but is it serving my dog well?
Like a good example of that is people who put a dog in a purse and carry it to all the stores with them.
Yeah.
And that's very self-serving on the person's part. Does the dog really want to be trapped inside a purse going to all these stores?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. We want our dogs to be part of our everyday life, but yeah, ask yourself, is this for me or is this for my dog in some of these scenarios? Because we see a lot of times where the dog is not happy in a scenario, but it's the scenario that the human really loves.
Right, yeah.
So they're projecting and they're assuming that the dog's going to love it as well. But
Or dressing up the dog in a dress.
Just a dress?
I've seen dogs in dresses, and it's like, who is this helping? Not that I think dressing up your dogs can be fun, but yeah, there's been times where I just thought, you know what, that dog does not need to be, like in the summer, sometimes I'll see a dog wearing a sundress, and it's like, it's hot. Like, it doesn't need a sundress on. It's a dog.
I think that... I think I avoid spaces where people might walk dogs in sundresses.
Well, how come I keep running into these? We need to hang out more in the summer.
Downtown Hamilton, yeah.
Hang out with me in the summer. You're going to see dogs in sundresses.
You know, I'm going to put Ned in a sundress just for you. All right. We've got some questions here.
Oh, did you rip it?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
I got really enthusiastic and I ripped the paper. So here we go. I'll piece it together and I think I should still be able to read it. Okay. My puppy is okay on leash. She just gets very distracted and isn't motivated by food or toys. So there's a couple of ways to sort of cheat the system a little bit when it comes to motivating and helping a dog who is not necessarily motivated by the traditional things. And we talked about rewards and coming up with things that your dog really likes. But in addition to that, what we want to make sure that we're doing is we are introducing skills when there's not stuff competing for our dog's attention.
Right.
So we always refer to this as the white room. Mm-hmm. And it's not something you're going to stay in forever. So please don't misunderstand. When we say you're going to start in the white room, don't stay there. Your dog is never going to get trained if they only train in the white room.
Right.
But this is where you need to introduce it.
Right.
So think about when we went to school and learned new concepts, right? Mm-hmm. We had recess time for social time, and all the distractions in the world were out at recess, and the screaming kids and the jungle gyms and the swings and the kickball and all the things. And now I'm getting nostalgic and I'm going to go back to Westwood for a bit. But anyway, I digress. When we went back into the classroom, all of those distractions disappeared.
Right.
We are sat at our desk. Everybody needs to be quiet. Everybody needs to listen to what the teacher is saying. You know, you don't have a whole bunch of clowns running through the classroom
Right.
when you're trying to keep your students' attention
Exactly.
and teach them new concepts.
Right.
So there might be a point, like maybe by the time I'm mixing concepts here, but maybe by the time they get to their exam time, which they're not going to have in elementary school, but maybe by the time you get to the end of that program and you're
Right.
sitting down to write the exam, maybe now you're schooled enough that you can ignore those clowns and keep on task.
Right.
Because you know your stuff
Right,
at that
yes,
point, right? You've had
yes.
the entire year or the entire 6 months or 4 months or whatever system you're working in,
Right, yes.
to have that information taught to you.
Right, yes. Or it's like I really like the TV show The Amazing Race.
Okay.
Like I love it. I really get involved with it. And I know if my partner's telling me something about his day during The Amazing Race, I haven't heard a word he
There
said.
you go. Yeah.
And because I'm watching The Amazing Race
Yeah.
and I'm focusing on it. And then it's like, huh? What are you talking about? And our dog, too, if he's watching something intently, like, you know, there's a car or a truck or a lady pushing a buggy, and you're saying, like, you know, sit, lie
Yeah.
down, come, the dog's going to be like, what? Like, what? Well, I missed all that.
Yeah.
There's a lady over there with a hat on. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Now, a more experienced dog with more training under their belt,
Right.
will be able to ignore those distractions. But we've brought that along slowly, right?
Right,
We've
yes.
gone from the white room, we've added some color, we've gone outside in the front yard or the backyard. Now
Yeah.
we've gone down the street. Now we go to strip malls and add those distractions.
that's
You know,
when you said strip malls, I was expecting another word after that.
that's what we're taking it. That's the best food and best
Right.
place to train dogs, apparently, right? So yeah,
funny.
we're going to all sorts of different places incrementally, right?
Right.
I'm adding distractions incrementally.
Right.
So while I'm learning the concept in the white room, now I'm practicing the concept with distractions,
Right.
with ever increasing distractions.
Yes.
So then I get to the point where my dog can perform it,
Right.
and can perform it reliably with all sorts of distractions.
Exactly.
out
Right.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like we don't train firemen on like, oh, there we go. We got a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah.
Get in there and learn.
Yeah.
You know? Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope to see ya.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I hope you read the book on putting on that Scott Air pack.
Yeah. You better have done your homework. Yeah. Gosh. Do you want to try a question?
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Do any of your trainers use doggy doors?
I don't know if any of our trainers use
I would
doggy
fit
doors.
through one, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some trainers I don't think that would fit through a doggy
No.
door.
Ba-dum-bum. Oh
wait,
my
wait,
goodness.
we got. Well, there we go. Perfect.
I don't think those are connected anymore. I
Oh.
think that I remember our producers saying that if you didn't just hear out wah 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 wah, that's
Right,
what we were
yes.
laughing at. But I don't think it happened.
I don't. Sorry, we couldn't resist that question. Of course, we couldn't resist, but we know what you mean. Yes,
Yeah.
I have never used a doggy door because I don't want my dogs going outside unattended and possibly digging up my flowers, barking at my neighbors. Just getting into mischief. I like to supervise outdoors. Now, it would depend if I had maybe a small contained patio area.
Yep.
Maybe my dog, and I was away quite often, maybe I would use a dog door. But I think it would depend on the dog. If I had a dog that had a predisposal or predispensary to bark,
Okay.
then no. But, Honda right now, he's an older dog and he's, quite well behaved. I could see him using a doggy door. Yes, I would 100% trust him with a doggy door, but I would not trust a young, untrained puppy with a dog door because who knows what they're going to.
Yeah.
Yes. And plus you could they could bring in some friends too. You might get the neighborhood raccoon or opossum.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think under some circumstances,
Yeah.
a dog door could be used.
Yep.
Under others, no.
Yeah, definitely. I personally have never used a dog door either. I've never had a setup where a dog door would make sense or where I wanted to cut a hole in a door to install a dog door. So I've never used one either, but we have lots of students who have used them and used them successfully. And I would say as long as you have safety in place on the other side of the dog
now,
door.
we do have a story from one of our online students. She came home to find a lot of her clothes, including underwear and bras, all out in the backyard. I guess the dog, for some reason, decided to get into her laundry basket and pulled dirty laundry all over her backyard for her neighbors to see.
Yeah, I think she worked long shifts.
Right,
So she had the time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Can you imagine coming home and all your clean clothes are out there?
Right. Yeah. Including your bras and underwear. So that's one thing to watch out for with dog doors. You never know what they're going to take outside.
Oh my gosh. And maybe you come home and there's some extra friends
right?
in your house too.
That would be a bonus. I like opossums. I don't know if I'd want a raccoon in my house, but maybe an opossum, a mom with her babies would be quite adorable.
Huh.
Maybe in your house, Shannon. Not in my house. In your house, it would be adorable.
I'm not so sure the word adorable comes to mind when I think about opossums.
I like them. I don't know. There's something about opossums I like. And they eat ticks.
They do eat ticks,
They eat insects, and they don't carry a lot of disease.
They're A-okay in my book because of that.
Right.
Chickens are also really good for eating ticks. So I might get a lot of chickens.
Or what are those other ones that are like chickens that make...
guinea fowl?
Guinea fowl, yes.
They're excellent watchbirds as well. They are so loud. If you've never heard guinea fowl make noise, Google guinea fowl noise and listen to it. It sounds like a construction site. It's so funny. I actually have a story about guinea fowl. Kip and I used to rent this cottage. And the second time that we rented it, we kept hearing this like very mechanical noise. We'd be sitting out and we'd have a bonfire and we'd be out with the dogs and we'd just be hanging out in the evening and there would be this really weird noise. And it kept happening, day after day after day. And we were both perplexed as to what this was. So then finally one day we were hanging out close to the cottage and we had just come back from the water. Reggie was there and it was just Reggie, myself, and Kip at that point. And all of a sudden we hear this noise again. And I was like, okay, well, it's daylight now at least. So like, let's look around and see what this is. And all of a sudden this giant flock of, I didn't know what they were at the time. Turns out they were guinea fowl. This giant flock of guinea fowl comes running around the corner of this cottage and they're tearing straight at Reggie with making this like super mechanical loud noise. Like I actually thought it was a construction site at one point. And of course, Mama Bear and me came out because they're tearing at my dog. Right. And Reggie's just a little guy. Yeah. So I get up and start flying at these guinea fowl, yelling like, hey, get away from my dog. And of course they turned and ran. I was trying to figure out what they were. And I came back and talked to Jan, who works in our office. Yeah. She was actually on a podcast episode when we talked about spay and neuter with dogs. And she did a great job on the podcast that day. So you can learn a little bit more about Jan by going back in that podcast. But she told me, I wonder if they were guinea fowl. So I've learned a lot more about guinea fowl now. And they make excellent watchbirds because they are really loud when there's an intruder.
I think you should get some guinea fowls. Yeah. No, we don't need dogs for... watchdogs anymore. Well, I need guinea fowl.
We need stuff too.
I need them at my house.
Yeah.
I need them at my house just because. Yeah. Keep the people away from me.
Oh my God. All right. I've got a question here. It's a good question. How old is too old to crate train?
Dogs are never too old to crate train.
Good answer.
Never too old.
Humans, 57. No, seriously, you can always crate train a dog.
Right.
It's definitely going to be something that you'll have to approach a little
differently. It might be a little bit tougher, but
but it is absolutely something that you can do. And I strongly encourage everybody to crate train their dogs. I mean, other than when I'm at work, Ned's never in his crate anymore. But I love knowing that if he needs to be crated at the vets, if I have to go away for some reason and leave him with friends, he's going to be comfortable in a crate.
Right.
And like he's portable because of that. There's so many reasons that I would always crate train a dog and rely on that as a way of containing and making sure that my dog is safe and making sure that my dog is not stressed when they do need to go into a situation like the vet stay, for example, where they need to be crated.
In my living room, Honda has lots of choices where he can go and lie. I have a few dog beds, and this is new. He is now allowed up on one of the couches.
Oh, because he's
14.
This
is new. He's 14, and I thought, you know what? He wants to sit on the couch. So I got a dog ramp, and it's quite a nice ramp, and the ramp goes right up to the couch, and he's got his own blanket. It's like a pretend leather couch, so I can clean it off if need be, and it's an older couch. And I've put his blankets up on it, and he's allowed to lay up there. And he has a ramp, so I'm not worried about. He's a small dog, so I'm not worried about him jumping up and off. But so he can lay on that couch. He can lay in his dog bed. And he can also lay in his crate. And his crate door is wide open in the living room. And he chooses his crate, I would say about 70% of the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He loves to lay in that crate. It's got a nice pad in it. He goes in there and he lays. Yeah. And he chooses it over his dog bed or sitting on the couch. So, he loves that crate.
Yeah. My own dogs as well. Mm-hmm. I have a collapsible crate set up beside the bed for Ned should he ever want to use it. Mm-hmm. He rarely goes in it, but it's there if he wants it.
Right.
And it's so easy to take down, transport with me to when I go and stay at my sister's place or whatever. Then he has a little portable space as well.
Right. Yep.
So crate training is always a good idea, and it is not age related at all. Yes. Any dog can learn to enjoy their crate. We have lots of great information on, building comfort in the crate.
Right.
So great question. Mm-hmm. Great crate
More
question. No, we're
done?
empty now.
Wow.
So keep all of the things that we've talked about in mind when you're discussing or when you're deciding or getting to the point where you're thinking, why isn't my dog listening? All of these little reasons that your dog might not be listening, and a lot of big reasons like not training them to listen, etc., are going to help you get to the root of the problem and get that problem solved.
Right. Yes. When your dog's making mistakes, we have to really stop and think, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like why isn't the dog understanding? Why isn't he listening? Yeah. And chances are we need to look at it from the dog's point of view, and then we'll start to see some solutions.
Absolutely. And it's not that there's something wrong with the dog.
No.
It's almost never that there's something wrong with the dog. There may be the occasional reasons that it is something about the dog, but for the most part,
it's a human equation.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to be responsible enough to do the work that we need to do to get them to listen.
People often just don't want to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes.
But it can be so much fun.
It is fun.
That's the thing. It can be fun. Like, it's not this arduous task.
No, it's a hobby. Think of it as a hobby. It's like, instead of going out and playing golf, I'm going to go out and train my dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And then you get addicted. Right. Like us. On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!